And good evening. This is Frankly Speaking Live with your host, Frank Holzhauser, and my co-host, as I referred to him, Davy Crockett.
How you doing, Frank?
Oh, better.
Yeah, that's good.
I won't write home to Mother about it, but
she don't want to hear anyway.
she hears it all the time anyway.
Yeah.
So,
you're never too old to give your mom a call and complain.
yeah. Hopefully we'll dispense with some of the pleasantries because we got a power-packed lineup.
Quite frankly, we're just in a sullen mood.
We got a lot of material to cover. David's got a folder full.
Always. Look at this.
So
It's
if you
ridiculous.
would like to join the sanity or insanity, and you pick your choice of words, join the conversation. Call toll free 855-244-0077, and if you're in the local Des Moines area, just call 244-0077. Well, it hasn't been a super eventful week
For once.
but there is news.
Right. Kind of the same big three things going on: Lois Lerner, and then the border thing, the border crossing, and not so much Ukraine. No real developments.
Did you hear Trey Gowdy take someone to task here in the last? I believe it was Wednesday.
I did not. I missed out on that.
Well, he took Trey Gowdy. I'll give him credit. He needs to kind of he can't quite determine what hairdo he wants to go with.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's the son of the sports caster back in the 70s, Kurt Gowdy, I believe. And he's an educated guy, and he don't mince too many words. I mean, when he gets these guys before his committees, he don't shy. He takes it right to him. But he basically asserted something that I've asserted all along, and on another talk show, Red Eye, and they didn't believe it at the time, but actually they were talking about it last night, that Obama was putting his thumb on the scale of justice and signaling to guys like Elijah Cummings, one of your favorites. Eli's coming.
I have a shrine to Elijah Cummings in my abode.
But when he told O'Reilly on Super Bowl Sunday that there's not a smidgen of evidence, Obama,
Mm-hmm.
he was signaling to these various committees, you're not going to find nothing.
Right. He's signaling, hey, it's not worth looking into.
Now, I brought up the analogy just as LBJ done to the Warren Commission when he appointed Earl Warren, and a bitter enemy of Earl Warren, whose name I can't recall, but the two of them couldn't be in the same room together. But he said, for the good of the country, he said, I need both of you on this committee.
Mm-hmm.
And LBJ done the same thing of putting his thumb on the scale and saying, well, I want the truth of this assassination plot, but I don't want the finger to point back at Russia or Cuba. So, whether it would have led down that path or not is history will dispute, but how do you get off, in essence, preordaining the verdict?
Well, that's what we do all the time anymore. It kind of started off with the Warren Commission there. The Kennedy family didn't even believe that it went back to Russia or Cuba. In fact, they reached out to both Fidel Castro and Khrushchev to let them know, hey, we don't think that you guys are behind this. I think that was in the book Brothers, if I'm not mistaken. Khrushchev, actually, when he got the news that Kennedy had been assassinated, he apparently locked himself in his office and cried for like a solid hour. He cried like a baby, they said. But yeah, even the Kennedys didn't believe that communists, if you will, had anything to do with it. They thought that it was somebody within the government or LBJ himself. So whenever you have like a big event like that happen, you do have these whitewash committees that get formed.
Sure.
Even like the 9/11 Commission, and we can
Well,
go back and forth on that. But 6 out of 10 members say, "Hey, we were lied to on this."
well,
And
my point was never to say that Russia or Cuba had anything to do with it. My point was
Right.
simply saying that when you have a committee and you're searching for the truth, why are you putting boundaries on the truth?
and I'm raising the point that
You know,
this is kind of the tradition now, is to put those boundaries
standard fare.
on the truth, right? To obstruct justice. We don't have really an independent justice system any longer.
Well, I usually try to start the show. I try to kind of save the political stuff because my show is kind of focused on God and his mortal enemy, Satan. And I wrote this week, you know the story. Michael and his angels went to war with the dragon and booted him out of heaven. Well, a little before that event, and certainly after, Lucifer became the accuser of God and the brethren. Part of his studied strategy has been to take credit for God's work and to blame and accuse God for his evil. Right is wrong, wrong is right, up is down, down is up, white is black, black is white, evil is good, and good is evil. So when we discuss some of our topics tonight, keep that in mind, that they will tell you you're going to believe me or believe your lying eyes. Another thing that I was possibly going to talk about. I've got a number of things, but I would mention something to you. I was listening to some talk radio this week, and as I was telling you last night in a phone conversation, I really like Michael Savage, and I've read a number of his books. But I happened to catch Michael this week, and he brought up some interesting things that you might find interesting, and see what your thoughts are on these. He first mentioned, I think Obama was in a news conference. I shouldn't say a news conference, but he was speaking somewhere. And Michael Savage is now up against, I don't know if it's recorded at the same time, but Michael Savage is now up against Rush Limbaugh in the afternoons, I suppose, between 1 and 4. I don't know obviously I know Limbaugh's show is recorded a little bit earlier than that, but I'm not sure about Savage's show. But he was commenting on Obama speaking, and I think it had to do with the Russian affair or the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I don't remember, but Michael Savage made the point that his father, being a tailor, was somebody who was very acute at coat sizes. And he was speculating, why has Obama lost a bunch of weight? He says Obama has potentially lost 40 pounds. Now, I know if you, as I, who donated plasma at a time in my life, they will ask you over and over and over and over and over again, have you had gay sex even one time?
Because that's a workout.
And I always hear Bill Murray in my mind's eye in Stripes going, no, but are we willing to learn? But you don't want to give
show
that.
Just took a turn. I mean,
but the point being that if you lose a bunch of weight and you're donating plasma, your account's going to get flagged for obviously they weigh you each time you come in. They take a draw of blood. But now he said his father being a tailor, he says that this guy is wearing he is very narrow in the shoulders.
right.
He don't know if they're retailoring his suits, but Savage was suggesting the idea that he's lost a ton of weight, and he ascribed it, I won't say prescribed it, but I'll say ascribed it to what drugs is Obama doing?
Well, that's always a possibility. He doesn't look any different to
Well,
me. I'll say
in
that.
this particular interview, his cheeks were very sullen and sunken in.
Mm-hmm.
Savage said his eyes was very buggy and bugged out. He said he looks like as if he's wearing about a 38 size jacket, and said that he's wearing about a 13.5-inch neck on his shirts. I mean, and I looked at the interview that I think Savage was looking at, and he seriously looked like a pencil neck. I mean, everything Savage was describing. I mean, Obama is not, probably don't go 150 soaking wet on a good day. And I'm thinking he's even lost a bunch of weight from this. So Savage wouldn't go down the avenue of suggesting that Obama had some funny tendencies. He wanted to chalk it up to potentially drug usage for his weight loss. And he says, well, I'd like to know what he's using because I need to lose some weight.
Well, I don't know. I just taking a cursory glance at like Google's image search between Obama in 2008 and Obama in 2014. I mean, I can't really tell much of a difference. I mean, he looks older, like every president does after they get into office. Like the weight of the office will weigh them down, but he doesn't. He doesn't look any thinner or anything.
If you saw this particular interview on TV that I saw, his cheeks, his cheeks did look sunken in, like he's been on a fast or a diet, or he's losing weight.
He golfs all the time, so he's getting a good workout all the time. So that could account for it. Now that's all he does is golf.
Now, Savage failed to mention your favorite registrar of love, Reginald Love, and whether there was any connection between the two and his weight loss. But
maybe the two are playing basketball. No, that's a terrible Michael Savage impersonation.
one other comment that being that you're in improv and you have some propensity to find humor in things, you like comedians.
Sure.
Savage brought up...
As long as they're not funnier than me.
Yeah. Savage brought up...
Those people are jerks!
Well, I told you last night that comedy is much harder than drama.
Oh, I know.
I mean, it is intensely difficult to be funny, and you ask a lot of comedians, it's really a taxing effort to come up with new material.
Really, that's why you should appreciate me every day.
That's why we have you here.
That's right.
It's what the big bucks buy. But anyway...
Where's my check?
But anyway, he was talking about, I believe, Brian Gumbel, and then the brother.
Greg Gumbel.
Pardon?
Greg
and Brian. I think he was referring to Brian, and he was talking about comedians, and he says that the Hollywood elites dictate and allow to the masses who they're going to see as funny. They're going to give you the funny people. You don't really have a choice as to who's funny because Hollywood is going to present you on a platter. Your choice is to accept.
Well, I think that's true to a large degree. They're the kingmakers, so to speak. So they're going to give you their pre-approved choices over what what you can like and what you can dislike.
So my warning to you is,
yeah,
if you ever have any comedic aspirations.
I'm an old man now. My aspirations are dead.
It's best not to be anything but liberal in Hollywood.
Well, then I convert. Obama, I cannot say I love you. I can't do it. The words can't come out. Maybe Obama has Ebola. That's apparently coming over.
Well, yeah. Now there is some symptoms, and that's supposed to be having some impact in the United States.
Well, yeah, they're saying they're bringing over 2 people who are infected with Ebola. They're going to bring them into Atlanta. This story just broke last night. They're going to bring them over to Atlanta for treatment. Of course, Atlanta is one of the most populated cities in the U.S. and also the home of the busiest airport in the U.S. So,
yeah, you don't fly anywhere in this country. You don't go through Atlanta. Well, this has been Frankly Speaking Live with your host, Frank Holzhauser, and my co-host, David Kanyuk, and Ryan producing. We will return after the break.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Get away from us, you mean old credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit! You're our hero!
Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places. Especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart, and it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you.
See them here, see them there. You got bad credit? We don't care.
Visit emetroford.com for your guaranteed credit approval. Good credit, bad credit, no credit. Everybody drives with guaranteed credit approval at emetroford.com. Visit emetroford.com today.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
And we're back with Frankly Speaking Live. I'm your host, Frank Holzhauser, and my co-host in crime, David Canute Jr. Yeah. And obviously, Ryan producing.
It's so obvious. This show just screams Ryan.
Yes.
It's just Ryan is all over this.
He's on it. I was watching probably last Friday night a episode of Bill Moyers on PBS. Bill had an economist, I think, on named, and I haven't done my due diligence to research this guy. It's really the first time I had saw him, so I'm not totally sure of his politics, but I found myself kind of in an agreement with him. So I'm going to make this my Sane Person of the Week segment, and then you can comment on his sanity or lack thereof. I guessed it to be the normal "we hate the rich love fest," but as I watched with some amusement at Moyer's discomfort as he was sitting on bumblebees or having staples shot in his butt from under his seat, he was squirming. And he was passionately trying to get his guest to buy his impassioned plea that the economy would be great if we could just force the evil rich corporations to pay their disadvantaged workers some of their greedy profits. But Brooks wouldn't bite. He advocated for the only thing that he did that I'm not quite sold on was he advocated for increased earned income credits for single men. and said that an artificial increase in minimum wage would only put people you seek to help out of work. Then he blew my mind, and Bills nearly fell off his chair when Arthur Brooks said the way to thwart greed and cause the rich to treat their fellow man better is to promote, quote, moral reformation. Wow, actually, sanity in an economic discussion. You see, folks, you cannot separate a fiscal house from morality and expect good results.
Well, that's absolutely true. You can't separate anything from morality and expect any good results. The whole argument about raising the minimum wage, the answer is not just throw more money at it. The answer is stop the devaluation of the dollar. If you're going to give people more money, which is even more and more worthless, then they're still not going to be able to. That extra income is not going to equate to a living wage. People years and years ago, they used to be able to just support a family, have a good house, have a good car on a single wage.
Well,
they didn't have to have both parents out working. They could, have the mom stay at home if she so chooses, and you can do that to a degree now, but it's really tough.
And you're exactly right. And what I've always said is, if raising the minimum wage was just in a vacuum and everything everything else didn't go up accordingly, but as soon as you raise the minimum wage, what do you think the union labor's going to do? They're going to say, well, we can't be down with those peons. They're going to have a raise in their wage. Everything else goes up accordingly.
Oh, sure. You're going to have a spike in prices and everything because the value of the dollar is going to be less because it's not backed by anything.
Poverty will never go away because the Democrats would lose their voting base.
And that's not to say. The Bible states that there's always going to be poor people, and that's not justification. It's just that is the fact. Some people will have a little bit more. Some people are going to have less, and that's just the facts of life. But the whole idea of raising the minimum wage is just a kind of an argument for people who just don't understand economics. It's a nice rallying cry. Raise the minimum wage. It's a rallying cry for people who don't understand the problem. And the problem is that our dollar is not backed by anything. So that is why you're having this decline in the value of the dollar.
Well, would you agree what he stated, that when you try to help people with an increase in minimum wage, you end up putting some people out of work to pay for it? Because in essence, what the companies are going to do, they're not going to take that. So they're going to hire less people, or they're going to lay off workers.
Right. So, or they're going to charge you more for the goods that they're producing.
Exactly.
In order to offset that. And I'm all for people being able to work and earn a living and not get paid peanuts for what they do. I'm not for
slave labor.
Right, Chinese-style slave labor, working in the Foxconn factories, making iPhones all day for nothing. And, they got suicide nets outside the building. That's a reality. I'm not for that. I'm for people getting paid, something that's worth something. And our dollar used to be backed by metals. They took us off that gold standard, and now we've got the petrodollar. And now this is why you are seeing war propaganda against Russia right now, is because Russia and 4 other countries are moving to form their own economic bloc called the BRICS nations. And they're funding their own bank, which is going to be a counter to the International Monetary Fund. So we've got kind of dueling factions of globalism right now between the old setup of the Anglo-American European petrodollar and now this new setup of the BRICS nations.
Well, you would agree that when we were taken off the gold standard was probably a mistake.
It was definitely a mistake. That's when we saw prices skyrocket.
But would you agree that for money to be worth anything, it has to be backed by something?
Absolutely.
Something of value.
This is why Dr. Ron Paul left his practice and got into politics.
So this is
why
the
exact moment was when Nixon and Kissinger got us off the gold standard.
So this is why our currency fluctuates in value as the price goes up and down on oil.
Right. And when you see the price of gas go up, that's not really the value of the oil going up. It's the value of the dollar going down. So it's going to take more of those dollars to pay for that gallon of gasoline.
Well, now let's get into a really hot topic.
All
and
right.
I advertised my program on Mac McCoy's show this afternoon on this topic, and it is who is stirring the impeachment pot against Obama. And there's been some calls, particularly by Sarah Palin. I would maybe even say Mark Levin. I'm not sure where he stands on it, but
Mark Levin stands wherever his Republican National Committee talking points tell him to stand.
But there is some people out there who are advocating impeachment, and then there are some people that is just scared senseless of it. And you say...
I say he has to be impeached. Barack Obama has to be impeached. And I mean, he's done enough stuff already that he can be impeached. And I'm not saying that as a partisan. I'm not saying that as some, dyed-in-the-wool Republican. I didn't vote for a Republican in the last two presidential elections. He's committed enough crimes. He should be impeached. If he signs an executive order on this border crisis, if he grants amnesty, if he throws money at this border crisis, like he was saying that he's gonna throw $3 billion at it. If he does that on his own, that is an impeachable offense, because what's going on at the border is asymmetrical warfare against the American people. He's committing treason. Really, he should be arrested for treason. So Sarah Palin is correct in her assertion that Obama needs to be impeached. Assuming that there's an election in 2016, the damage that can still be done by not going after him, by not impeaching him, by not setting the precedent that we're not going to let this stand is too much for the country to recover from. And then you have the apologists like John Boehner, who have been nothing more than Obama's lapdog ever since he got in there, who are doing everything that they can to stymie off impeachment.
If I could laugh like Beavis and Butthead, I would give you some sound effects for the name that you referred to our esteemed
traitor of the House.
Leader of the House.
Traitor of the House.
Well,
really, I think the first person who should be impeached, I mean, if you really want to go after it, the first person that should be impeached, let's impeach John Boehner. Let's get him out. And I'm really disappointed in the Republican Party in Ohio that they could not get this guy knocked off in the primaries like they could with Eric Cantor. But this guy should not be Speaker of the House. He should not have a national platform.
Just a quick thought before it probably doesn't really pertain to this argument. You could make it connect, but I did see that Ruth Bader Ginsburg the other day said she isn't going anywhere. Now, there's been some people calling for her to step down. I wished we could sometimes impeach Supreme Court judges, but let me make this point. Let me play devil's advocate and make the point here that some people are saying and speculating that because the Affordable Health Care Act is going to be such a loser for the Democrats in the fall, that Obama is trying these same tactics, the artificial war on women, the impeachment talk, and of course the standard fare of taking away Grandma's Social Security. That happens like clockwork every
Grandma
election.
don't deserve it.
But many people are saying that obviously there's a certain base of the Tea Party and your libertarian elements in the Republican Party, certain conservative Christian groups possibly, that wouldn't mind at all seeing Obama impeached. Even if it wouldn't pass the Senate, they'd like to send the message that, hey, back off, Jack, quit, start obeying the law.
Right. You have to set that example that you're not going to let lawlessness stand.
And how do you expect the immigrants to obey the laws in this country when they cross the borders and our commander-in-chief won't obey the laws? But some people are speculating that Obama and the Democrats are now stirring the pot on impeachment because they feel that that's a winner amongst the black community, certain elements of the black community, to gin up the base, because there's people who believe that anything against any opposition to Barack Obama's policies is Nazism, racism.
Right. They try to throw up that intellectual brick wall of any opposition to Obama is racism, which is completely ludicrous. But here's the thing: even the black community has started to get fed up with them, and they're actually really upset about this about the whole immigration issue. They see kids who are dying from their own gang violence in their streets, and then they're expected to welcome in these immigrants because they're trying to escape violence in their own country. We're not throwing any money in our own inner cities. We're not throwing any money to help Detroit. We're not throwing any money to help Chicago or anything like that, which are basically war zones right now. But yet we're trying to throw billions and billions of dollars to bring all these people up here, which are going to collapse our infrastructure even further.
Now, just a short point, you mentioned Detroit. I was watching a program the other night on Nat Geo, and it says that Detroit is the #1 destination for homeless drug addicts because there's a plethora of empty houses, free living, and they have the quote-unquote best cut heroin in the country. The most pure heroin. Not that it's pure by any...
shipped right in from Afghanistan where our troops are guarding the poppy fields.
Not by any stretch of the imagination, but the purest form that you can get in the country.
Yeah.
But basically, John Boehner, / Boner, as you commonly refer to him as, is offering up some compromise or middle ground called a lawsuit against the president.
Yeah, he's throwing up, again, this is the argument. This is just like the argument of, let's raise the minimum wage. This is an argument for people who don't really understand the problem. It's something to placate the Republican base who aren't really paying attention of, Boehner's doing something, he's going to sue him. For what's he going to sue him for? This thing's going to drag out in the courts long past Obama's term would be up.
Well, this has been Frankly Speaking Live with your host, Frank Holzhauser, and co-host David Kanyuk, and we will return after the break.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershad.
I'm administrative manager.
I'm the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's gonna be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're gonna do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you gonna say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're gonna be listening. They're gonna wanna know what your challenges are. Then they're gonna come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going, though. I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm going to take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
Bang, bang, lie down, you're dead.
And we're back with Frankly Speaking Live. I'm your host, Frank Holzhauser, and my co-host, David Kanyuk. When you observe the media like I do, you know, you got things that you want to bring to the program, and there's not always the best opportunity to mention them. The topics doesn't always present an opportunity, but I'll toss this in because I've had it on my brain more than several weeks. But I saw the commentator David Brooks. He's called a conservative. What passes for conservative and liberal in this country isn't always clear. It's
You pay a membership.
Yeah. Well, it's sometimes gray.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I guess I would probably call David Brooks a moderate. I don't know that I would call him a right-wing conservative.
Would you call him lukewarm? He's lukewarm, like Christ would spew him out of his mouth.
Well, I don't know. He's got some good points to him, and he talks some good stuff. But some people in the right-wing movement say he's a traitor. But basically, he said on, I believe it was Meet the Depressed. I could be wrong on that show, but he was on some show where he made this statement that when you get into these political debates, you have to go in with the assumption, I don't know if this is bipartisanness, working across the aisle or whatever, but he has to go in with the assumption that both sides are at minimum half wrong. And I suppose in the spirit of being bipartisan, you know, that may be in some respects true, but I just think the Democratic Party and liberalism has veered so far left of what it was meant to be, because like I mentioned too, in the Edmund Burke Thomas Paine debates, it was brought up by Yuval Lenin that on C-SPAN that it was the Democrats that stood for property rights and personal rights. It was liberalism that stood for those things.
Yeah, our Constitution is traditional liberalism. Our Constitution, the whole idea of what America was supposed to be, that was a very, very liberal idea, because nothing like that had ever really been tried in the history of mankind. It was an entirely new and unique moment in history.
And
the old guard was authoritarianism. The old guard was, you know, you have one monarch and he's authoritative. He rules over all, whether it's a benevolent king or a tyrant or an emperor or whatever. It always went up into this pyramid structure, and you had the one guy at the top. And now here comes along this idea that says, you know what? We have the guy at the top, but he shares power, and he's on equal playing field with everyone else. And the ultimate power lies with the people. Well, that is a radical idea. And we're going to give the people all these rights, and they're going to be the bosses of the country.
Well, now they've often made the analogy that the neocons is rafted from the left to the right, trying to find a home. And the libertarians have kind of done the same thing. I mean, the libertarians should have more in common with the liberalism of a former time, but now they find themselves more in league with the conservatives, but they're not really happy in the Conservative Party either.
Well, I think the libertarians have always kind of kind of stayed the same. Back when I first woke up, the libertarians were definitely considered more like kind of an offshoot of the Democratic thing because of the party that was represented in the White House. And now that we have the other party represented in the White House, which is really just the other side of the same coin, doing all the same things that the previous representative was doing, and then some, now they're considered more part of the conservative party. But I see that the libertarians have always been kind of staying true to their same principles, while it's the other ones that are going way off the bandwagon to authoritarianism. The Democratic Party has gone into this authoritarian Marxist mode, whereas the Republican Party has gone into kind of a classical fascist mode, as Mussolini defined it, a merger of corporate and government interests. But they're both two sides of the same authoritarian coin right now. If you go with the neocon brand or the boss you around on every aspect of your life, liberal brand.
Well, then in that you have the Christian conservatives. And Payne, for sure, I posted something on Facebook this week. It's a little long for this session here, but I would just mention that Payne probably would feel that the moral laws and the Constitution were living documents that had to keep in step with the time, that God's eternal law, such as God's eternal law and the Constitution, but many feel that it's just too restricting and antiquated. And he was one of this country's founding influences.
Well, the Constitution was meant to be restrictive. It was meant to restrict the power of the government. But they do have those modes to make it a living document, and that's called ratification. So we can pass amendments and everything.
But there was a standard. You had to have 2/3 of the Senate, and you had to have 2/3 of the states ratify.
Exactly. So it was brilliant in that aspect where it can be changed, but it's not something that can be done just on a whim with the changing of the times.
It's not supposed to be done with the stroke of the pen or by the Supreme Court.
Exactly.
Would you agree?
Exactly. It's not supposed to be done like that.
Well,
and when you got somebody who says, I've got a pen and I got a phone, then he's going against that founding document. He's going against the principles of why this country and how this country were founded. He's going against what he's supposed to be upholding, and what he's going against his job. Well, and that's why you got to throw the bum out.
The Wesleys taught against the reformers. Wesleys, Charles and John Wesley, I believe, they were brothers, taught against antinomian teaching.
I hate those Timinians.
And it was the idea that Payne kind of picked up on, is that Payne taught that no society needed to be compelled to follow the moral dictates of a past generation. Morality was a moving target, subject to change as society changes. And the Wesleys profusely taught against that. And you have to come down as a Christian that God's law is eternal, not subject to change. So I look at the Constitution, our Declaration of Independence, and our Bill of Rights is backed by the eternal law, much like gold should back our paper currency.
Right. No, and I agree with that totally. I think what he's referring to, though, God's law is eternal, but I think what he's referring to is, I'm trying to think of a good way to put it. Like years and years ago, the older generation, they thought Elvis Presley was evil. They thought he was
that hip shaking.
Yeah, that hip shaking, gyrating,
Elvis
leather wearing fool.
Elvis the pelvis.
Exactly. Elvis the pelvis, that was like the moral, horrible thing. This is the worst thing that could happen on the nation. Now, Elvis is it's antiquated. He's quaint, basically. Would you say listening to Elvis Presley, an Elvis Presley song is wrong?
No.
Right, and that's kind of what I think he might have been saying about the shifting morals. What can be acceptable in one era, or what cannot be acceptable in one era, is often downgraded and is acceptable in the next era.
Well, I was listening to a talk show last night, Red Eye, and one of the guys was on vacation, and Harley and Gary, and Gary Harley, I think, was making the point that why do we accept lying to us in this country? I mean, why do we accept politicians lying to us? They literally pee down our boots and tell us it's raining. I mean, Jay Carney is Baghdad Jay Carney. These people, they come out and they regurgitate lies to you. Obama stood up before us and lied to the American people to get voted in office. He lied about Benghazi. He lied to get in office and said no one making under $200,000 will have a tax increase. They was trying to sell the Obamacare thing as a interstate commerce that was based on fees and penalties, and then they went into a Virginia courtroom and argued it as raising taxes under the 16th Amendment. He lied straight to our face.
Yeah.
On that basis alone, he should be impeached.
Right. No, I totally agree. And this is going on for administration through administration. The Bush administration, there was a study that came out. They lied 900 times in a year about Iraq to get us into that war. They should have been impeached and tried for war crimes. Same thing should happen to Obama. Why people accept these lies, though, that is so multifaceted. That could be an entire show.
Well, I called in and I made the point that because one of the reasons, I don't think it's because we accept being lied to, but there's no journalistic integrity. One man don't feel like he can do anything, and they lie till our eyes glaze over.
Right, and that's the key, I think. We're taught that we're powerless. We're taught that the individual is powerless. And we don't realize that there are more of us than there are of them.
But saying all that I have just said, I know that there would be, I see if somebody seriously tried to impeach the guy, I could conceivably see Rodney King-style riots all over this country.
If the Marxists in power stir them up, which I don't put it past them, there will be riots. I think it's amazing. There's a CNN poll that came out just last week that said more than 1/3 of Americans want to see President Obama impeached. 35% in this CNN poll, 35%. That's remarkable. Think about that. 35% want Obama impeached, with nearly 2/3 saying the president should not be removed from office.
Well, I heard
so
somebody.
That's kind of sad right there. But
I heard somebody offer up the threat or the suggestion that if Obama does this with a stroke of a pen and gives work visas to about 5 million illegal aliens, that there's going to be such a revolt in the Conservative Party and the Tea Party that they are absolutely going to blister their politicians that they voted for to vote on articles of impeachment. And they feel that if there's enough support in the Congress that if Boehner don't go along, he will be taken out with a coup.
Look at all the things that Boehner's allowed, though, to go through in his time as the lapdog for Obama.
Well, we're getting down to our final segment, and I don't know if Brother David here has any sane persons or hypocrites of the week, but we'll go where it leads. So we'll return with Frankly Speaking Live. I'm your host, Frank Holzhauser, and my co-host, David Knuck.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
You've experienced God's power, and you've heard the sermons telling you to reach the lost by demonstrating the kingdom of God on the streets. But has anyone ever helped you do it?
The Kingdom Power Immersion Camp.
It's time for action. If you need help, we'll show you how. Get hands-on training from experienced coaches as we bring the kingdom of God to the Iowa State Fair. We'll work together and help you walk in God's power. Get equipped for a kingdom of God lifestyle as you touch thousands with God's love and power. Heal the sick, prophesy, and walk in dominion. You'll never be the same again. Let Dave and Patty Lockett of Holy Spirit-led Ministries and Andy Hayner of Full Speed Impact and a team of John G. Lake Ministry directors work with you for a lifestyle of walking in God's power.
The Kingdom Power Immersion Camp.
August 6th to 17th. Come for all of it or part of it. Don't miss the special student camp, August 10th to 17th. Go to fullspeedimpact.com or hslm.us for more information.
And we're back with Frankly Speaking Live. I'm your co-host, Frank Holzhauser, and my co-host, David Canute Jr., and Ryan producing. We got about
10 minutes.
About 10 minutes left, and you want, I don't know if you have a sane person kudo of the week and a hypocrite of the week.
Sanity's just left.
Yeah. But you wanted to make kind of put a period on the impeachment,
right? Because we
and rioting in the streets,
right? We had left off about rioting in the streets and everything, and I think the immigration thing is so. I think people are so against this. There's another poll out that said 77% want illegal immigrants sent home. 77% of the country. The huge majority of Americans, 81%, believe that the new immigration crisis of unaccompanied children streaming over the U.S.-Mexico border is serious, and almost as many want them gone.
Would you tell me, just off the top of my head, this is just an out of left field question, what's wrong with what's broken about our immigration system? Supposedly, we allow in 1.2 million legal immigrants in this country a year. What's broken about that? How many would you want to let in?
Yeah, well, everyone, I guess.
Yeah. Total open border policy.
You have to understand this is a strategy move. This is actual warfare against us to leave the borders wide open and let whoever they want to come in. And I'm sure Obama is going to sign his executive order, and the spineless, ballless Republicans in Congress are not going to do anything about it as long as Boehner's at the helm. They're not going to do anything about it. And I don't know. It could be civil war. It could be riots in the streets. It's hard to say.
Well,
with 77% of people against this, God knows only what's going to happen.
Now, did you have a final point?
That was the final point, brother.
All right. Well, there's just one little thing I want to toss in here. On the lawlessness of this administration, Lois Lerner is still in the news. There have been some additional emails come out. Trey Gowdy is kind of taking some people to task on some of the committee hearings and whatnot. But I understand that Lois Lerner, obviously a partisan, I heard somebody say that she came out of like a federal election committee or something. I mean, talk about conflict of interest.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you appoint somebody like that to the IRS?
Because you want a lapdog.
And she was calling conservatives a-holes and calling conservatives wackos and nut jobs. And we're supposed to believe that this woman wasn't targeting on behalf of Barack Hussein Obama.
Yeah. And there was a story last week that her hard drive was initially just scratched. It could have been recovered, but they went ahead and destroyed it anyway, so that's totally illegal. And again, nothing's going to be done.
Okay,
where's the warrant for her arrest?
Did you come across anybody speaking some sanity this week?
Not really. Jesse Ventura, he won his $1.8 million defamation lawsuit against Chris Kyle. So that's a good thing. Chris Kyle went on national television and tried to say that he had punched Jesse Ventura, and that Jesse Ventura had said a bunch of horrible things about Navy SEALs.
Well, actually, in the interest of his disclosure, not to interrupt you here, but he was, as far as I know, he appeared on Bill O'Reilly and told this story. And according to what I heard the original show. O'Reilly supposedly said in the book this person was unnamed, and O'Reilly said, well, everybody knows who it is, who you was referring to.
Right.
So supposedly Jesse the Body's name was not mentioned in the book, according to O'Reilly. And O'Reilly's the one that blabbed it all over national TV that it was supposedly...
Right. But the thing is, all the witnesses at the bar, the employees, and the people who were patronizing the bar, they said this thing never happened. They brought this thing out while Jesse Ventura was, out in Mexico. He couldn't respond to this thing. He had to get, Alex Jones called him. He's like, did you hear what they're saying about you? No. What is it? Well, they're saying that you did this in a bar and you said that SEALs should be killed and everything. And apparently Jesse was beside himself. So now the pseudo-conservative media is trying to paint Jesse Ventura as this monster who's going around suing the widow of the now dead Chris Kyle, who is I firmly believe Chris Kyle was put up to write this book and to claim that Jesse Ventura did this thing. He was put up to do it, and then when it came out that the truth was going to come out, and Ventura was going to sue and probably win this thing, somebody came up at a shooting range and shot Chris Kyle. Like, this guy was hit. He was hit.
Well, supposedly this was somebody who had some post-traumatic stress syndrome from the war, and he was trying to mentor the person, and
and this person, he suddenly shut. No, I firmly believe Chris Kyle was hit. But yeah, so they're trying to make Jesse Ventura the bad guy for trying to clear his good name.
So we got about 6 minutes left. Do you have anybody who just exudes hypocrisy this week?
I think I had a couple of Nancy Pelosi stories.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, let's see here. Illegals demand representation in White House meetings. How do you like that? Let's see. Oh, here's one from Tuesday. In event of emergency, illegals to be evacuated before citizens. In a meeting last week, emergency managers in the Rio Grande Valley region addressed the reality that in addition to picking up the tab for putting the immigrants up, they have also accepted responsibility for their safety. That means ensuring illegal aliens have a safe evacuation from temporary and permanent shelters during an emergency. Quote, you have extra sheltering areas and detention centers right here, NWS coordinator Barry Goldsmith told KRGV News. And they are able to withstand the wind, and they're able to withstand floodwaters nearby to get humanitarian relief. Bottom line is that the entire valley detention areas will be evacuated first before the public gets their mandatory evacuation. So thank you for paying your taxes, and you'll be left to die. And then 1,000 children fleeing violent Honduras, heading to violent Chicago. Pelosi to reporters on the midterm elections. She said to reporters that we need you to be messengers. When asked at a press briefing on Thursday why her party's message is not resonating with the electorate, House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi told a room full of reporters that we need you to be messengers. So don't report on the news. Don't report on facts. We need you to just carry the water for us.
Well, here's one that kind of blew my mind. And apparently Nancy Pelosi was on Inside Washington with Gwen Ifill, or whatever Gwen Ifill show is. And I always wondered why Gwen Ifill was even allowed to moderate a debate with Barack Obama involved in the debate when she had written a book about Obama. That just absolutely blew my mind. And she's supposed to be able to have a nonpartisan debate.
Oh, but there's no conspiracy
here.
But
Nancy Pelosi said to Gwen Ifill that she had to check with Qatar or Qatar, I've heard it pronounced either way, on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, because Nancy says, Qatar says and believes that Hamas is a humanitarian organization.
So she had to check in to see.
She had to check with Qatar
to see if Hamas is a humanitarian organization. Yeah. Well, what does she know? I mean, seriously, this is the most clueless woman in the history of
I
women.
suggest that you watch sometime the woman's hand gestures and it matches up with her voice. I'd like to see somebody that does the gesturing thing to see what it says about her. But I believe she literally makes it up as she goes.
I would like to see a quiz show where the two contestants are Nancy Pelosi and Sheila Jackson Lee, who got up on the floor of Congress and said, "We've never tried to impeach a president. We didn't even try to impeach Bush," when she signed a bill asking for articles of impeachment against George W. Bush.
Who do you think would win, and who's smarter than a fifth grader, Sarah Palin or Barack Obama or Nancy Pelosi?
Probably Sarah Palin.
Agreed. Well, this has been.
I mean, I don't agree with everything that
no,
Palin
sure,
said, but
sure.
at least, she does have
But we're
some
we're
modicum of
told that
intelligence.
Obama's the smartest person in the room, but we've never seen his school records.
Right.
We got to take liberals' word for it.
Right.
Well, excuse me.
You're racist.
This has been Frankly Speaking Live.
It's racist to ask for school records. You're
That wasn't
coughing
quite
like a
going
racist.
down well. But this has been Frankly Speaking Live with your host, Frank Holzhauser, and my co-host, David Kaniuk. We will see you next week.
Choke on your racism.